Hi everybody, this is Why I Believe. Today I want to talk about the problem of evil. In the midst of the coronavirus, some of you may be wondering, how can this happen? How can a good and loving God, an all-powerful God, allow so much pain and suffering to exist? So I want to share with you how I understand this. Now, before we start, I want to talk about the two basic types of evil that we're talking about here. Really, you can break it down to the emotion aspect and the intellectual aspect. Today, we're not going to be talking about the emotion aspect. If you're hurt, understanding the intellectual part will not help you. So please, if you're hurt emotionally, please seek professional help. Seek counselors, pastors. There'll be people that can help you. And today we're going to focus on the intellectual part. But even within the intellectual, there are two topics we want to cover. Really focusing on one. The first one is what people call the moral type of the problem of evil. The second one is the natural of the problem of evil. The moral type of problem evil, most people have less problem with intellectually. What is the moral type that we're talking about? It's really man's own inhumanity to men. Because the good God allows freedom. Freedom comes in two ways, really. Freedom to do good or freedom to do bad. When people choose the freedom to do bad, like rape, murder, theft, robbery, etc., that's a problem of evil. But that's really from man's own freedom. So people in general have less of an intellectual problem understanding how God can allow this to happen. What really is hard for us is the natural. Assuming, for example, the coronavirus is a natural disease, it's hard for us to understand how can this happen that it disrupt our life so much. How can SARS happen? How can earthquakes, tornadoes, typhoons, etc. happen? And to this, unbelievers or atheists, or even maybe yourself, who may be unsure and agnostic, usually has two versions of arguments for this natural intellectual part of the problem of evil. The first is what it's usually called the logical version, and the second, most of the time, is called the probabilistic version of the problem of evil. The logical problem aspect of the problem of evil really deals with the deductive and the evidential aspect. The claim is that there's no possible world in which God, a good and loving God, and evil can coexist. Is it possible for evil and all loving and powerful to coexist? I wanted to focus on the word possible. Is it possible? When we are dealing with questions like this, all we really need to prove is to understand there is a possibility, and then this argument falls apart. This assertion, usually when it's made, there are, in general, two assumptions. If those assumptions can be broken, then this argument doesn't hold. And that is two assumptions about God's character. First, God is first all-powerful. Then He can prevent evil. The second one is, if God is all-loving, then He would prevent evil. So these are the general two arguments for this logical version of the natural evil. We are all aware of cases in which we allow pain and suffering to occur in life for another person in order to bring about the greater good. For example, when we discipline our children, if you're a teacher, when we discipline our students, there is greater good that can happen through the pain and suffering and struggles. And in the exact same way, God may permit suffering in our lives in order to build us up or to test us, to have better characters. So it's certainly possible for all-powerful and loving God to allow evil to happen. So again, I think this argument doesn't hold. The second version is the probabilistic problem of evil. This argument understands that it is certainly possible. However, even though it is possible, but it is highly improbable for God and evil to coexist. Now here, we want to focus on the word improbable. Improbable, it's a word used here that is a little vague. Improbable relative to what? What is the background information? So the argument here really says who. Who says that it is improbable for God to allow the problem of evil to exist. In reality, we are in no position to assess with any sort of confidence the probability of God's existence relative to the evil world. Humans are limited in time, space, intelligence, etc. We have no good assertions to say that it's improbable. So I want to leave you with this. Our goal in suffering is not to discern the reason why God is allowing us to suffer, but rather, the question should be, what can I learn from this experience of suffering as I go through it? In the next video, I want to talk about a few reasons why God may allow the problem of evil to shape our characters. This is why I believe the problem of evil and a good and gracious God can coexist.